Please welcome our next speaker, Zeno Colangelo. He is the CEO of Tmesis Studios, and he will give a talk about how to create a video game from a comic book today.
Okay.
You can
Thank you.
start.
Okay, so hi, I'm Zeno Colangelo, art director art director and CEO of Universe for Sale, a video game that allowed us to explore in a particular way the world of video games and comics, and bring me here for this talk to talk about how to create a video game from a comic book. Here's a little outline of this talk. I'll start with a brief introduction of our team and project. Then I'll focus on our research on what is the state of the market right now if you talk about comics and video games. After that, I'll tell more about what we want to bring with our project, and then how we managed to convert a comic book page in a video game. So, before starting, as I say, I want to say a few words about our team. I'm part of Tmesis Studio, a united group of only 3 people. This includes Federico, that is the programmer, Guglielmo, that is the sound designer, and me, essentially the art director and author of the story of the game. Tmesis, instead, is our logo. Tmesis is a term that comes from the ancient Greek, term of cutting. In metric is the division of the 2 words into a division of a word into 2 parts that emphasize the meaning. Similarly, we like to think that we break the language of the video game to see what is in between. But what is our game? Universe for Sale is a sci-fi point-and-click narrative adventure a game. It's set up in a far future on Jupiter. In the game, you will follow the story of 2 characters, the Master, a mysterious cultist, and Lila, a universe vendor. The player will be immersed in a deep lore of interstellar religions, where he will meet tons of weird characters while enjoying a totally hand-drawn graphics inspired by 80 European comics. A prologue demo is already free to download on Steam and itch.io, and we plan to release the final game during the 2023. It's very important how this project was born. Before working in the video game industry, I was basically an illustrator and a comic author. Around 2017, I created a personal project called Universalmente Parlando. In English is Universally Speaking, a comic of which I realized the first page, and then I searched for a publisher who could be interested to financing it. But I never managed to find an agreement, so the project was put aside until the COVID period, where one day I talked to Federico, the co-author of the game and developer. I talked to him about my project, and so it born the idea to transpose it in a video game and change the name in Universe for Sale. We started working on it, but first of all, we wondered what exactly we wanted to do. What did we want to bring in the video game market? We decided to use everything I had already created in the comic proposal that I said before, with the idea of using the power of the video game to emphasize every aspect and detail. We wanted to create a narrative experience linked to the world of comics in a transversal and unique way. Something that could keep you glued to the chair while sipping a cup of tea in a state of relaxation, like when you read a good graphic novel, in a way that we call an interactive comic book. But being our first experience in the world of video games, we wondered if someone had already done something like that. So we start doing a little research to understand what is the situation in the market. So what comes in mind for the public and the market when you talk about comics and video games? In our first research, we were a little disappointed. Often when you talk about comics, it means that you are using only some comic codes, the most pop and referential ones. Some example in games like Batman, Spider-Man, superhero games in general, you can find stuff like lightings and onomatopoeia that appears during the fight that quote the classic comic, as I say, fight comic or superhero American comics. And for example, the dialogues in the Persona series have wonderful graphics reminiscent of the manga. And other games, for example, Borderlands, use texture and 3D models that recall the Western American comic book art. But all these games are not meant to make alive the experience of the comics, but only to quote it, exaggerated and bringing maybe closer to the world of animation and cinema. So create a game that resemble the style of comics, but make you put in a way where you can jump, fight, and get close to the animation and movie world. All of these games are great, but they aren't what we intended to do. So we started looking at other kinds of video game genres. One that gives us as much food for thought is the visual novel. Almost by definition, the visual novel is par excellence the transposition of a book in a video game. They concentrate, in fact, like 90% of the gameplay in the dialogues, therefore in the reading, leaving a lot of time, space for background graphic style that is very often very pleasant and nice to see. So this was very close to what we intended to do with our game. A game that is essentially very close to the experience of reading a book. Another area that has inspired us is the one of the hand-drawn games. This is not exactly a genre, and often it doesn't have a precise definition. But from what we understand, it includes all the games that with a graphic style that seems to be drawn 360-degree by the same person. Games where, therefore, every time you pause the game, each image you see on the screen present the same style, essentially, maintaining a stylistic coherence that dominates the whole work. These, in my opinion, are works of extremely artistic quality, a quality that often, paradoxically, is not always achievable by large companies. It is indeed a quality often rooted in the world of independent studios. This is because it needs a centralization of the thought that only small studios can afford easily, where the artistic idea of the work comes directly at the base of the project, and the cooperation of few people with the same artistic idea make easier work that would be otherwise would be complex. So it was very stimulating when we came to this conclusion. Being a small studio with a strong artistic base, we felt we could bring something to the gaming market. Now, having understood this, in general, our goal in general, we move on to our project in particular. We want a game that essentially is accessible to everyone, just like a comic book. Just like a comic book is readable by anyone, we want to make a game that is accessible to everyone. And so we thought that a point-and-click game could be one of the easiest way to approach to the video game genre. Then we need something that left a lot of space for the artistic style. So we thought that an exploration game in general, where with a lot of ambient and situation, could be perfect to give me the possibility to use all my skill and as an illustrator. And then we need a game with a lot of with the possibility to put a lot of dialogue, and so the genre of interactive narration was the best to make the narration send in a central way to the project, to feel more close to the literature world. So it was natural to develop a point-and-click horizontal scrolling gameplay, focused a lot on the exploration, interaction, and interaction with the surrounding environment. It was very interesting, the awareness of our choice about the horizontal scrolling, because in fact the horizontal scrolling is, since the time of Super Mario Bros., a point of view among the most used in the video game world. But this point of view is also one of the most classic of the world of comics, in particular the European one of the 70s and 80s, where the Franco-Belgian school made out things like 1010, Asterix, and later master like Moebius. The point of view far from the character, linked to a clear friends line, a type of line art that is very with less shadows possible, and that give a lot of importance with the simple line. With the two combinations of this point of view and this kind of line has a very precise narrative concept. In fact, it's called, a lot of time, it's called documentary point of view. The documentary point of view is a narrative style that aims to tell a story in an analytical way, putting the characters in the same faraway level, with less variation as possible. Leaving the reader the choice of what to focus on. So even if there are the protagonist in the first level where they are fighting or they are arguing, they are making, essentially they are going on with the main storyline, the reader can choose to forget about this character and look perhaps focusing on the landscape and in its details. One famous character that emphasizes this kind of storytelling is Idefix, the dog of Asterix and Obelix. In the story of Asterix, you can start to search Idefix in the background. That while the protagonists are doing stuff and they are going on with the story, you can find Idefix that is doing dog stuff. So he's playing around with a ball, or is starting to catching a bird, or eating some food, dog stuff. And this is as an example that of a kind of narrative that go a little deeper in the scene and leave the spectator to choose how to participate in the story. is the opposite, for example, of the American-Japanese style, which focused a lot in the protagonist and what they feel, accentuating them in a caricatural way, and put less details in the background and what comes on. And in general, it was very exciting to come to this conclusion. As we, as are Europeans, we were glad to bring glad to have the idea to bring part of our artistic history into a video game in our project. So now we are ready, but where we will start? Where will we start? Obviously, we start from the page already made for my proposal at the time, with the aim of making the exact equivalent in a video game and see what would come out. This first part process was the result of this process was the program that you can already play on Steam each, as I say, and now I show you some little part that little parallel of the comic page and the parallel of the video game scene. And as you see, we try to make something that is resemble the various panel of the comics and to keep this and keep the same style of the draw. Is another scene in which, in particular, it shows a lighting and a thunder, so light and sound. That is a peculiar scene to work on. Peculiar because, as in the world of comics, there is a lot of way to represent a light and a sound, and in particular the sound with the classic onomatopoeia, the vroom of the thunder. And in the same way, was interesting to work in to exaggerate, to emphasize these two aspects of a single meteorological event. And one of the most difficult scenes to realize is this scene where there is a creation of a universe that come out from a cup of tea. In this scene, there will be Lila, one of the protagonists, that have the power to create a little handmade universe. So you will see this universe that will be shaped by the hands of the protagonist, and in the video game will be shaped by, controlled by the player itself. And this obviously was something challenging because we had in mind to have the same experience. We wanted to make the same experience that you see in the comic, but with I emphasized and more participating way that only the video games can give. But how we do it essentially? How we transfer this kind? What was the process to transfer the page to a video game? I must say that as soon as I came from the comic book sector, the workflow of the comic book was the only one I know. So I use the same, essentially the same workflow that I used for a comic book page, and this workflow starts from the first draft, the storyboard. As could you imagine, when you're making a story, or even not only comic books, but even cinema or animation and stuff, you must start from a little concept idea, and this idea is you make the stronger with a storyboard that is useful to calculate all the where to put the character, all the camera view that you want to use, and see if the story goes on well. And in the same way, see if and in this way you will use a very fast draw to make as fast as possible this process. In the same way, and for this video game, we use essentially the same system. We're starting by doing all the asset with a fast storyboard style to set up all the character and object and all the position of all character and object, and how the background interact with the character and stuff, and decide where we will focus for future detail and other stuff. I think this way of working is not something particularly new, is not something original. Is as I say, in every project you must start with a draft basic, but using the same style of a comic book, has made much easier to maintain the same style in the final product. After the storyboard, we then go to work to the finished product. When you make a comic book page, you will work in various levels of a page. Often these levels are made by different people. One that is doing the line art, one that is doing the color. But when you're talking about author comic book, a lot of time they're made by same person. In our case, every level of the drawing was made by me. These levels are in basic starting from the level of line art. This is the one after the storyboard, where essentially is the one that is the real handmade hand draw part of the illustration, in essentially the black and white page. Then we go with the color part that is called flat. This because it's not doesn't have the shadow, and it is only the part that fill all the space of the draw, and where you choose all the color that the stuff must have. Then there is a level of shadow, and this give the roundness of everything, and it's very important, obviously. And when you're in this case, when to set in a more technical way, when you are coloring in a digital way, you must think about the fact that you must set the layer in a multiply option. So the layer will be interact to the previous layer in a way that is more or less transparent, and enhance the various tonality and contrast of the precedent layer. And then we add a light effect layer. This light effects layer is, as you could see in the comic page on the left, is the layer in this example where there is the thunder that show on the lighting that show on, and this layer interact with the other with overlay modality. And this overlay modality will enhance the various color in a way that enhance the tonality and the color in general will be more vivid and vibrant. And the same thing we did for the video game. So a level of line art, and then will be colored with a flat color. Then a shadow level on multiply in the same exact way, and then a light effect level that is interact on the previous level. In this example will be that level is the one with the light bulbs and the computer in the background. But in a video game, it will be a thing that is not not be in a comic page. And this level is the one of the character and the objects that they will be moving and interactable on the game. This level will be between the shadow and the light effects level, so the light effects could interact on the background and even in the same way on the character that can move left and right without the problem of the light. Then an important part of the project is obviously the animation. For this game, we choose a kind of animation that is called frame-by-frame animation style. And this the kind of animation that, as you see in this image, you will work on every frame of dimension. In this case, there is a lot of the various sprites of the character that combined will come out with the working character. And we use this style of animation because it allows us to work on each frame as it were an illustration itself. And there are other kind of type of animation that we could use in this project. For example, it's possible to use a 3D style animation, like for example Borderlands, that remains a hand draw style, or we can use, for example, joint animation where you draw all the part of a character, like the body, the arms, the legs, and then you join them like a doll, and you will make a move not in the animation part, in the drawing part, but directly in the game driver part. But we preferred to set up in this way, so we could have the control on every aspect of the workflow. And as you can imagine, our project is largely focused as a project largely focused on illustration, with plenty of space to add animated details. Here are some examples to give an idea of the work we are doing. And you can see a lot of little aspects that we focus. For example, how the smoke on the cap come out from with the heat. That a lot of time in a video game you will use a particle system. For that, we instead choose to make even this in a frame-by-frame animation. The lights of a room, the thunder outside the tea house, and the book and everything essentially. And our objective is in fact to have when you arrive to at this what else scene of the game, you can pause the scene, and we managed to have every aspect of the game like a living illustration. So when you pause the game, you will have like a final product illustration that doesn't resemble to be a real video game. I would like to do a little small focus on the method of animation that I use. I will not go very precisely on the technical side, as every artist must find in his path the method that suits him more. So imposing mine would be wrong in my opinion, but could be interesting for somebody that maybe is starting and is trying to understand how what to focus on. So what I can say is that, like everything else in the game, my method of work is not far away from the way I worked when I was a comic book author. I use the same program, in my case, Clip Studio Paint, a very well-stocked program for both animation and illustration. And I use the same method that I would use if I make a comic book page. So starting from, as you see on the left, starting from the sketch, and then the line art on the right, so flat color, and then shadow and light. And this is some way is the classical way of working in the animation. Is not something complex, and the frame by frame animation is in fact one of the most easier to understand the way of animation. But this kind of workflow was very useful to keep the same style throughout all the game. And so when you're making every aspect of the, even in the program itself of the game, you're always ready to what will be if you're making a light spot, or if you are making a different camera view. You will always know how the draw will interact, even if it's in an animated draw or a standard draw. Then another little detail that I want to, little but important detail that I want to focus on is the user interface. In addition to the artistic style, we put a lot of effort into the user interface. We thought it was very important, that is very important. In fact, we think that maintaining the same artistic style in any part of the project is fundamental to make the player forget that he's playing essentially a video game. So we use the same style of the dialogue space. We use the same style for the dialogue space, for the menus, for the interaction graphic. With the same style, I say that you use also the same brushes, the same, if they are animated, the same frame by frame animation. So to keep the same, as I say with the other kind of animation, to keep the same objective that when you pause the screen, you will have something very similar to a self-made, not self-made, an illustration essentially that you can print without knowing that it's a video game. And in general, we managed to put as less possible, less as possible help and tutorials, very typical in the video game world. This because we thought that the video game, in the tutorial, the classical tutorial where the game asks you to press A to interact, go left to go left, press R to use that special power. We thought that this kind of tutorial make you understand, make you remember that you're playing a video game. So is in our project wasn't the best because we want to keep the player in a state of he's watching an animated movie. In particular, is playing is reading a comic book. So to immerse the player as much as possible, we remove all the possible hint, and this is for a project was essentially easy because as we managed before, we make a point and click gameplay. So essentially, it's easy. If you want to go in a direction, you point that direction. If you want to interact, you point what you want to interact. But every time there is something a little complex to do for the player, there will be the character that tell to the player what to do. And for example, we also remove the inventory and this kind of stuff because we thought that the inventory itself could be even too much demanding to, okay, I must understand what the game want me to do, not what the character in the story want me to do. And so all of this stuff that usually in a game design are the less important. For example, is typical in the as we see before in the visual novel, for example, everything is very well made, well drawn. But for example, they leave the space for the dialogues in a very synthetic design because it doesn't they doesn't give importance because it's not they doesn't mean to have importance. But we thought there could be something useful to focus on. And after that, I think I'm done, and I'm available for any question. Otherwise, feel free to now I'm available for any question. Otherwise, feel free to write me on LinkedIn and on every social media you can find if you search my name on Google. So thank you for the attention.
Thank you for your talk, Zeno. The first thing that I would want to say is that your art is very beautiful, very
Thank
impressive.
you.
Checked your Steam page. So you have 3 people in your team, right?
Yep.
And as I said, you are an artist, and 2 other guys. What do they do?
The other two guys, one is the developer and one is a musician, so he's working on the sound design.
Okay. And what about game design and narrative? Is it also your responsibility?
The game design essentially because the major I'm the creator with the Federico that is the developer. So the game design comes essentially from me and Federico, and the narrative come essentially from me because it's the comic idea was born with me, but in the process of making it a video game, obviously it changed with a lot of little aspects that we made together with Federico. Instead, Guillermo is a little outside this process, but it gives a lot of effort on the majestic sound design that is very into the project.
Mhm. And do you work somehow like with the community? Maybe you have some social medias for this project, or like Reddit or something.
Uh,
Twitter, maybe.
I must say that we are a bit less competent in that case. In Italy, there is not, we come from Italy, and there is not a lot of, a big community. And we start as soon as we didn't come directly from the video game sector. So I come from the comic sector and Federico from come in a completely different sector, and so we start with this project with the prog to have a social media life and stuff, and but I must say that we are not the best in that case, but because it's for us it's a little complex to work in to keep it. This I must say that the problem is because the studio is very small. We are only 3, so keep an eye on the social account and keep an eye to continue to work on the game is demanding, and we are leaving all of this stuff maybe in the final part of the development.
I understand.
But when
Mm,
we released the prog demo, the demo was living by itself. It was epic because there are a lot of people that write us, and there was some little community that are doing that ask us about the project and stuff that without any without putting any effort, only because we saw that a lot of people want this kind of game that has this kind of relaxing. Obviously, the art style is very good, but this kind of genre of game is something that a lot of people ask for.
yeah, can expect that. I mean that I don't think that like uh, your social medias will take like a lot of work. You can post there just updates of like some of your art, I don't know, animations, and that will probably also work quite good.
Yeah, but in general, we are planning to do it, but uh, we are entering. As I say, there is as I say in the description in the talk, there is this part of the sketch part, and essentially we are start in the rest of the game after we do the prog. For the rest of the game, we are essentially leaving more or less now the sketch part, because we project all the game, all of the rest of the project. So we had in a we was in a very tough position to post stuff that are still in in a draft mode. So, but we think we plan in fact that in the probably after the next on the after months we start to be more present in the social media to show, for example, how we are how we are working, as you say, and some workflow of the project, some new design and stuff, and but yes, we are not focusing on that because essentially right now there isn't we haven't a lot of material to show it to keep the flow of the social media. So okay, I can show something, but that I vanish for 3 months because I can't.
And you mentioned that you plan to release next year in
Yes,
2023. Do you have already like the whole story written? I
yeah,
mean,
we already also
you
written.
understand clearly the scope of work that must be done already.
We have all the story written, but I don't understand if we understand the scope.
Like, if you have the story, then you probably understand
No, no,
more or
no. The
less
story is all
how.
written. In fact, it was a even it was a long period, one boring period because we have the story written, but we have to manage all the dialogue and set up all the. We have to understand that because we learn how to do a video game with this video game. So it was also demanding to set up a software that could be easy to use for making a lot of dialogue that could be changed and stuff, and that could leave us the possibility to work on some other ideas. And yes, but yes, the story is done. Essentially now the game is done, but we are focusing in a lot of now we are more focusing on the final product. So the part where I draw everything and we manage to put the character in the particular position with the style that we want, and yes,
Hmm. By the way, what software do you use?
we use Construct. That is a software that burns more essentially for the for uh, the smartphone mobile system, but now
Hmm.
is more you can use for computer games and stuff. And we manage also. We think that the plan is to port the game also in Switch and another console, and yes.
Okay, got it. Okay. That's probably all the questions that we have. So thank you very much for your talk. You work on a really beautiful game, and I wish you
Thank
best
you.
of luck with it. I will personally follow it now and hope to see it released next year and enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.